So here we have a fully set up board for Twilight Inscription. Go over all of these components because there is quite a lot going on right here. So when you start getting set up, the first thing that you're going to do is hand out the player sheets to everyone. These 4 sheets right here are the player sheets, and these are navigation, expansion, industry, and warfare. And these represent all of the different things that you're going to do throughout the course of the game, and almost everything that you do is going to be represented on one of these 4 sheets. Each of the sheets does have 2 sides to it. There's a side A, which is a unique side, which will provide players with an asymmetrical and slightly different experience while going through the game. There's also a B side, which is the same across all of the different cards. So if everyone wants to play the exact same game, or for new players that are just learning, the B side is a good place to start. For the purposes of this video, the cards are all on the B side so that you'll be able to reference this with your card as you learn to play the game if you're learning to play whilst also playing along with us as we go. Once the cards have been passed out, the next thing you're going to do is assign factions. The factions will determine a little bit of strategy for you as well as give you some unique abilities. The one we have here is the Emirates of Hakan, which are of course the iconic lion folk of the Twilight Imperium boxes. You'll see that they have a setup of Claim 2, and those are trade goods symbols, which you'll find on the industry sheet. Then they also have a power of the first trade goods you spend each round can be spent as 2 of the different resources instead of 1. And then they have a special power that we'll get to when we start looking at claiming things on the sheets. All factions have one of those special powers and something unique to their ability. Not every faction has a setup power, but for the purposes of this, we chose one that did so that we could show it. So right after we do that, we'll just run over here to industry and circle 2 of these trade goods to indicate that we have claimed them. We'll go over claiming a little bit more as we start to go into the actual functions of play. The next step for setup is to prepare the Mecatol Rex Sheet. That is this sheet right here, as well as the agendas, which are below it. There are agendas for stages 2, 3, and 4 of the game. You'll randomly select one of each of those and put them face down here. You will also select 4 objective cards from the 4 different categories, which correspond to the 4 different card types: navigation, expansion, industry, and war. For this purposes, we have the Mercantilist, Technocrat, Sourcing Expert, and Armada, and those are going to be one of the biggest ways to get victory points and actually win the game. Next part of setup is to prepare the event deck, which is this right here. The event deck represents every round of the game. We'll start by revealing an event card, which is going to dictate some of what's going to happen that round. Typically, that's the most important thing that will inform your choices. It's going to tell you whether or not you're going to roll dice and add things to one of your sheets, or whether or not you're actually going to resolve something like war or industry, or have a council meeting and do voting, that sort of thing. So the event deck is the core component of showing and directing the flow of the game. There is also a few other components that we're going to prepare. Mostly we're just going to set these nearby and get ready to use them once they start coming up. Those are things like the relic deck, which we'll reference when we start claiming relics, and we'll talk about what those do. There's also just the reference sheet that each player should get one of, because these are handy that help you recognize what all of the symbols mean on these cards, as well as a few other terms so that you know exactly what you're looking at when you start moving through stuff. And the last phase of setup will be to choose the speaker. Much like in regular Twilight Imperium, the speaker has a few extra things that they're in charge of running, but it does not actually have any variance on the game. The speaker does not have any gameplay advantages. They're there to just kind of help move things forward and say, all right, this is the current step. This is what we're doing right now. Basically the person who's leading. So if you have a more experienced player that's more familiar with the game, they're usually the person who should be speaker, or someone who's particularly eager to help make sure the game's running smoothly should be that assignment. Don't worry about whether or not that title is going to give you difference during agenda voting for Twilight Inscription, that's going to be a lot less necessary. With that, you're ready to play Twilight Inscription. Go ahead and check out our other videos for details on how to play, and like and subscribe if you enjoyed this and found it helpful. Thanks so much.